Hi. This
Hey
is my
guys.
first live Facebook transmission, and I'm here with Heather
Hollander.
who's a really good friend. We actually been friends for a long time. Haven't really connected at the personal level so many times. And we have another amazing friend here who is hiding. She just wants to hide.
She might pop in here and there. We'll see.
And
If this conversation gets juicy enough,
yeah,
she'll
I
peek
really
her
want
head
her
in.
involved. She's like, just her brain is incredible. And I was asking her, so you gotta be here, like you. And she goes, no, I'm just gonna sit back. I'm like,
Yeah. She's observing just for the
Yeah.
moment.
Yeah.
So we came together today because, really we had this amazing conversation the other day, which came exactly when I needed it. We've been trying to get in touch for a live phone call for the last few months, and it just finally happened on this day where I was just feeling like my head was exploding with the responsibility of what I'm facing with my health. And you said some things to me that really, like, they were truly a gift. It was like, I'm gonna say the woo because I'm a girl and I get to be wooey. I felt like God, like literally it was like an angel was coming to tell me what I needed to understand about this journey in order to face the journey, because it's a big one. And so anyways, I said, please come over and let's do a Facebook Live, let's make a video, let's share what we're talking about, because I truly believe that this whole experience and challenge with my health is a path to embodied awakening. And in that process, there's a metamorphosis, a death that has to happen. And there's a bigger picture, and I believe that there's a whole mandala of ways that we sort of heal all the different layers and aspects of ourself on the practical and also in the unseen world. So can you share a little bit about your background and your work with bacterias and viruses and what you were sharing with me about the role that they play in driving our evolution?
Sure. Yeah. So my early studies in college was in biochemistry, and through those survey courses you take as an undergrad, you kind of start developing interest. So I became very interested in several facets of science. I got into genetics next, and really learned genetics at a level where you get to actually look at each cell and ask questions such that if I change this one thing, what happens to all the genes? So it became really fascinating. I was just at a time where you could ask those sort of questions and not be in such a under a microscope. So I got involved right when the microarray gene expression was introduced, and then from there I got involved on a particular gene that we made a mouse model. Sorry, Tara. Yeah, we had to make a mouse model because we're not smart enough to figure it out on our own, and that gene was involved in immunity. So I became fascinated with immunology. So I did 5 years a postdoctorate in immunology at Scripps Research in San Diego. So that's sort of my dry background in sciences and how I studied what I studied. But what was fascinating is when I started teaching at college. So I taught biology to majors, and that was really fascinating because for now I'm trying to express and convey stories, and I'm a storyteller. So I remember the only people that caught my interest in college were the professors that were storytellers, and I'd be like, especially in sciences where it's so dry, so we tell stories, and some of those stories in it was woven pictures from the past, from humanities, from my classes on humanities, things that I learned that I would put together and go, wow, fascinating stuff. And I would tell my students, and you can see that all of them are just at the edge of their seat going, holy crap, this event happened because of biology. I'm like, yes, the fatal biology, this is what happened. And they'd be like, oh my goodness. So then early on I really learned that everything is connected in such a complex complicated matter that you can't answer one question with just a simple explanation of one view, right? There's so many ways you can actually come around and answer things, and it all goes down to two parts. So this is where, coming from a hardcore science background, in a very hardcore science institutions that I was part of, sort of drawing back and saying there's more to it. And I remember my experience was when a student came to me at the end of one of my classes, and he was a Christian, and he was really just torn when I was teaching the evolution section. And he says, "Oh my God, Professor Ramsey, I totally understand, and it makes sense. But I'm sorry, Catholic. So I'm a Catholic, and this is what's been happening in my life." And I said, "Well, you don't have to choose."
Right.
So I described the
Burning Man yes and philosophy.
Yeah, I said, look, all evolution is saying is this. It's a mechanism we can follow. It's easy, and it's very logical. It's really easy to follow, and you can see the evidence because so that's just part of it. That's all it is. It's not choosing whether you should be religious or not, or believing in your heart and in a higher power. And your belief in the higher power is just as good, that this the source that you believe in that is part of all of this. And at the physical level, this is what's happening. But at a whole nother spiritual level, your belief is just as good, so you don't have to choose. And you can see the relief on his face, like, oh! And he was so happy, and I said, and I was like, "Whoo,
Good job.
That's a tough question, for anyone to address." So then, from those teachings and from all the humanities courses that I learned, the history, that how things happen, especially if I don't know if anybody has read. I think a lot of people have read the Gun, Steel, and Germs. I said it in probably I'm dyslexic in different orders, but that book is really fascinating because it goes into the history of why things happen, and then if you really, with the knowledge of genetics and everything we have right now, we can go back and see why it happened. Like, holy wow, like malaria is directly connected to slavery of the South Africans.
Wow.
The reason that the South Africans they were too expensive. Half of them would die on the way because it's such a long journey. We couldn't communicate, so they weren't really that good of a source. Whereas the indentured servants from Europe, they come in, they do their work, 7 years, they get land. It was a better deal, it was cheaper, and it worked out, and it was easier. The problem was in the rice fields, they were all dying. And the South African indentured servants weren't. At the time, they didn't know why that is. They're like, oh, we're going to have to bring them. Now, fast forward to genetics. The reason for that is that malaria cannot live in a sickle cell. So then, because of their genetic fate, that they were heterozygous for sickle cell, they were able to survive malaria. And that's why we had slavery. This would have abolished long before if it wasn't for their genetic fate. So, you're just like, oh my God, wow.
Just when you think you're in control.
Right, so those are the things. And our discussion was about, stepping out of the science part of what's happening. It's very clear the suffering that certain ailments bring to us, and some of the deleterious mutations that we have that cause these sort of problems. And then we have infectious disease such as Lyme disease and so many other things that are persistent. So going back to evolution and going back to genetics and looking at them and immunology, I feel very fortunate that I have 3 different fields that I kept going in and out of. And at the time, they're like, that's suicide. In science, you stick to one and you become really good at it. I'm like, but I have interest in all these things, And it turned out to be good because I can now really connect more than what I used to. And that connection is that, when you look at, the entire Genome Project, back when I was a student, I don't want to age myself, the 90% or so of the genome, actually 98% of the genome is, they call it garbage. They were literally, in textbook, it says it's garbage DNA. It's like, wow. And the question, if any student would ask,
garbage
why?
DNA.
Yeah, because it's not non-coding, so they didn't code for any proteins. There's no genes, right? Only 1.5% of the entire genome, once the Genome Project was finished in 2000, they're like, wow, there's actual genes. about 20,000 genes, right? Which they were very wrong that we have all these 100,000 genes. And in fact, flies have more genes than we do, which is really like
Wow.
weird. Like, wow, why does it? Or something is they're fruit and vegetables that have actually more genes than we do. And it's like, wow, so vegetables more complicated than a human? Well, now, if you want to get into higher consciousness talk, which I don't do woo.
You don't do
Well,
it, but
you can-
I do. So that's where
So
we're
you
good
can
together.
go, well, see, plants have their vibration is way higher. Anyway, we're going to stop right there.
They're potentially plants are in a lot of pain when you're eating them, but we'll talk about that another time.
I won't be part of that. But but what I wanted to express is that the pure intent of evolution, as you and I discussed, was it just throws things at the wall and asks what survives better. That's all it's doing. And in the process, there are a lot of heartaches. You know, now whether in our mammalian lives, you know, a lot of we suffer from disorders and diseases and so forth. Now, if you look carefully, many of these disorders are also what we call pleiotropic. There are pleiotropic effects, such as where what that means is this one gene, once mutated, which is really the mutation is just a form of a protein changing slightly. So its function changes. Sometimes it doesn't function, and sometimes it does something a little bit different. And it can do two things. The one thing that's bad we focus on, which is Alzheimer's, Huntington, and things like that, and some others, many disorders, complex disorders. And then there's also some of the good things that happens, which we sort of don't look at. But if you are unbiased biologist, you look at the total phenotype, you're like, oh my God, these people, yes, they die at the age of 45. But man, you know, they produce like crazy. They can impregnate women by just going by. So that deleterious effect was that it's such a late onset that this kills them, but they are mass producing. So there must be some benefit in there for these people that are doing. So they're actually helping population growth, even though they themselves are sacrificed.
I think you called me a sacrificial lamb, if we just want to get to the
Yeah.
point. You said,
So,
don't take this the wrong
yeah.
way. But you're kind of a sacrificial lamb for humanity.
So there's, again, in such a short time that we have, it's very complicated to go through everything, all these examples. But what I'm trying to get at is that the evolution is going to throw these at us, and the other 98% of the genome out of the 1% are these repetitive elements, which we didn't understand. It turns out these repetitive elements are actually came from viruses. But when did they come in? Well, viruses sort of insert their genomes in our genome, and in a million genomes and different genomes, so they keep doing that. So when you think about millions of years, you know, how we evolved from a bug all the way to us, the amount of opportunities that evolution has had to keep changing us to who we are today, how smart we are, you know, and then you can appreciate what we are still going to become as this is going on. So yes, viruses coming in, bacteria is coming in, and some of these bacteria are in harmony in our bodies, you know, like Clostridium difficile, which is in our gut, is actually all of them. We all have them. It becomes a killer when the balance of the gut goes haywire. Then it becomes opportunistic to kill you. But all of these things, life has a very beautiful balance, and when it's disrupted, it's not, as we call, oh my God, this is bad. The disruption is an opportunity. It's really an opportunity to become a superhuman, as I was telling you. Now, most people don't believe that they are, and they perish. Only 1 in a million has that capacity, like you, to keep fighting. And I told you on the phone, I'd be like, oh, I'm done. With the suffering that you go through, with the suffering that I've seen some others go through, and how they believe that they can not fight. So you don't use the word fight against, that I am cooperating with this to become superhuman.
Wow.
So I'm learning the opportunities that I have to overcome and not beat it with ego, not say, oh, I'm gonna win this, oh, I'm gonna over, but he said, I will work with it, I will learn from it, I'll let this be my guide to become the superhuman.
Wow.
And when a few of them do that, then there's the next evolution. So it doesn't happen just physically. It's very complicated. It happens with a belief system as well. The believing, and the believing isn't like, as I was telling you, is kind of like The Secret came out, and I just laughed. I said, "Oh my goodness, this is terrible." Where, you know, I had some of my woo-woo friends are just praying in the corner, I want $1 million. And I'm like, oh, it doesn't work that way.
Not me, I was not doing that. Clearly, maybe I should have been.
No, it wouldn't work. And you know, the intent, as I believe, behind the belief is that you actually 100% in every cell of the body believe, which means at that point you are shedding any fear, you are shedding anxiety, and you're shedding any disbelief, you're shedding incompetence, you're shedding all that, and you're stepping into the belief that I am going to conquer this. I totally believe that my system can do that. You know, I have the biology that knows exactly what it's doing. I will feed it what it needs to do what it has to do in evolution, right? That mindset, it doesn't come easy. Most of us are in fear when we're in pain, when we're fighting and we're losing the battle, right?
Oh, yeah.
We're going from a red zone, red phase, and this is well explained by Dr. Martin Shaw that I explained to you. He's an incredible writer. That in humans we lost track of myth, you know, and some of those mythical stories, the storytelling. We're allowing our heroic selves to believe, and we lost complete touch with the wildness, as he describes it. That we completely lost track of all the things that are out there that can help us, and the form of abundance is allowing everything around you, even the wolves that you fear, to help you through this global mass consciousness that plants and dogs and everything else are part of, and you don't discriminate. You're part of this one, if you believe in that, and you allow the abundance of all forms to help you, not the way you think. Because if you're like, oh, please cure me, I want this pain to go away, you have just collapsed all other possibilities to get you to that human, sort of superhuman, right?
Right.
But if you open it up completely and say abundance can come in many forms and shapes, and allowing your genetics, allowing the process of evolution, and allowing that you can perhaps become the next evolution is sort of a theory of mine. So, you know, that's kind of like what I like to believe, that based on all my knowledge of evolution and everything else that I've studied, that I've seen, is that I believe that you have that capacity, as a great book written by Viktor Frankl, that I just don't know how he survived. Like, it's just a fascinating person that came out of this I wouldn't have survived it, you know, Holocaust survivor, that came out of it, and the vision that he got out of it to abolish really hatred for anyone, and how he survived was through love and understanding and having compassion for the guards that were beating him.
Wow.
That is 1 in a billion. But he came out with really teaching us ways that blew us away, and his capacity to survive that was just phenomenal. So it's that hope, the woo-woo part, that
It's kind of
that you have the belief that you can let everything we learn from science that we observed is going to help you get there. And when you get there, it's and whether you are going to be sacrificed along the way, knowing that there is an outcome still coming out of that, like as I said with some of these disorders, that is for the rest of us.
Yeah.
I know it's interesting, and it's sort of what I think and like to believe, but that was my point, that I've seen a few friends go through what seems to be just absolutely impossible, and I go, wow, they have courage.
Thank you
And you're
so
one
much.
of them.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Sometimes I think it's courage, and I'm getting to know myself better, that my courage is still in a lot of ways driven by fear. You know, I keep catching this archetype that has been my go-to girl since I was 5 years old, when a lot of trauma started in my life, and that is the superwoman archetype. And so I catch myself like falling and standing up and being like, I'm fine, oh yeah, okay, just get me back out to the beach, just give me another cup of coffee, we're gonna get there. And over the last few weeks, since the last, the treatments that I did, you know, I've had less ability to access that. And then our conversation and sort of that assimilating more has been leading me to really the gateway of what's next, which is the cooperation. You know, now it's about really, like, I'm approaching the gateway of my deepest relationship with these bacteria and viruses. And in that relationship happens in the dark.
Yeah, it's dark.
Holy dark.
It starts on what Dr. Martin Shaw says is you're in your black state. So there's the red state where we are the young warriors, and it's all ego. And then the black state, if you choose to face the black stage, is what he says in the story of the Ivan, is you are his fighting against Baba Yaga, which is the witch of the, you know, nobody survived ever in history of, so, and he's going in the hole to face Baba Yaga, and the only information is that nobody has survived, nobody came out of the hole. And through that story, you know, the mythical story is that for us to actually get to the white state, which is the final stage of life, which you become an elder. You're basically, you don't fight, you're just this sort of Buddha-like mentor that know what to do, what to say, you know, kind of like an oracle, if you will. So in order to get that elder stage, which in the tribal parts of our world, you know, you always have that wise oracle, always, who's the elder, who has in his history have fought battles, had won and had lost, but he survived, and instead of continuing in that red Amna Beach, he found a wiser way to face Baba Yaga, and found that the Baba Yaga is not an enemy, is actually someone trying to help. So right, so what you just said is exactly that. If you choose to believe that, oh, this is a cooperation, and you're going through the dark stage, you're facing it. You don't have a choice.
No choice.
Right? And if you're gonna go with ego and throw, you know, weapons at it and things like that, you will probably lose.
Yeah. Learned that one too. A few times repeated over the last couple of years. I wasn't really liking to go down on that one. But now I'm beginning to understand more, and I'm listening deeper and learning more, and the beauty that's coming out of, like, the depth of it and the intimacy with life and with the people. You know, you've been in my life for, I don't even, probably 10 years. I don't know. You know, like, we've just been circling. We have these little. And then here in the darkest, when I feel the least able to connect with people or get out or be part of things, we come into this resonance, and that's the beauty, you know. And what I love about our conversation, and I want to share more over time, is that it bridges all of our realities, all the dimensions of our experience. And I am a believer that the body is a miracle, and essentially an information processor and bridge, you know. Right. So in my relationship with being chronically ill, and also my relationship with, you know, now stepping into my sort of try to be cured, it's multidimensional, and if there's anything that I can pass on, I just want to share any and all wisdom about that journey with people, because that it's such a gift. It's the hardest thing, but it's also, to me, I think it's what the bacterias are leading us to, right?
Yeah. They're they're not choosing. They're not. It's not a personal thing.
No, but they've been here longer than we are.
Yeah, and if you find a way to cooperate, and perhaps this bacteria will live with you forever, and in some other forms that you two will find a way, then that becomes the next progression in evolution.
Okay, I have to bust myself literally. When you said you and the bacteria will maybe live together forever, I was like, what? That sucker is fucking out. So I think I have a ways to go on the cooperation piece.
Well, so the immunity part of this, just to circle back to the final subject, which is the immunology, right? We talked about genetics, we talked about everything else. So this immunology part of it is like when you become into that, entering the white state is when you don't have the fear, when you have completely surrendered to severance, and that's the hard part. We were never taught how to sever ourselves from this world. Nobody ever taught us like the grace of leaving. We're always just like, oh, holding on, like this is it, and the journey over here, it could be one day, it could be 10 years, it could be 100 years. Nobody said that, what that is, and nobody taught us that it doesn't matter what that day is, it's okay. That's your journey, right?
It's part of the wave.
That's part of the wave, and that part is very crucial, because when you get there, when you actually surrender to that, then goes down your fear, that goes down everything, and then that actually helps your immunity. Yeah. You're giving your immunity a chance to fight, to work with the bacteria, to figure it out, to cleverly, because the bacteria are super clever, the viruses are so clever, and they don't have a brains, but they're just so clever because they're so simple. Yeah, we tend to complicate things a lot, but actually, the simpler it is, the cleverer it is. So you have to find an answer that's very simple. Life is, right? We never see it that way, but everything is simple, and that's, I think, the elderly part of the wisdom that
Okay, well, I've got work to do, but this is the official. I definitely, this next step and this next phase is I offer my body, my journey, to the evolution of humankind.
To yourself.
And to myself, and holding that in my heart and that awareness and this bigger picture of what's happening, on in the seen world, in the very biological, practical world, and in the unseen worlds. Like, I can almost say in this moment that it is a gift that I get to go through this. It's like an initiation,
The rest of us don't get that.
Yeah, poor you. In some ways.
As I said, in some ways, yeah, it's
yeah.
It's a gift, because most of us can't handle this, and sometimes it chooses certain people because it needs to get there. We need to evolve. We need to keep going. So, and as I said, it's not a personal thing. It's not, it's just sort of, here it is. Most people can't handle it, they check out. But the ones that surrender to it and cooperate with it, perhaps find a way. Yeah. Right? It's like going into that black hole. You kind of say, all right, I'm okay with not coming back out, but I have to face it. I have to face this witch. There's no way around it.
Yeah, that's been made clear to me. It's been made clear. Wow, I just got in that moment, like, how to create intimacy, you really want to find the place that you are like the other. And when you were saying about the bacteria, like, it just has to get there, it doesn't see anything else. I was like, oh, that's how I feel. That's where we're the same.
Yeah.
And so it's like that dynamic tension or relationship between the two have to get there.
Yeah.
That's when the rising happens.
Well, when you think about it, is that the bacteria, if one of you don't get there, it doesn't happen. You both have to survive this.
Right.
The bacteria will never get anywhere if you don't progress.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
So for this to happen, you both have to get there together.
Wow.
That's the superwoman.
Yeah. Okay, so I've been like, so the death of Superwoman happened, but the real Superwoman's getting born, and then in the midst, something else is going to happen.
Right.
I'll do my best to share.
So anyway, I thought this was amusing. It's an interesting
Thank
subject,
you.
but it also it's uplifting. You know,
It
it's
is.
uplifting that yeah, we're, you know, this is just look at it as a gift. That only certain, you know, strong individuals are willing to work with us
Yeah, the gift is.
and share. You know how you're sharing your stories. Most people go in a cocoon and they don't want to come out to the world. You're actually opening up all your possibilities to everyone, including myself, who I didn't know all these years. You know, you were inflicted by this to come out of, whoa, oh my God, I had no idea. So
I
you're
didn't want anyone to know.
Yeah.
Darn it.
Yeah, but it's actually, I believe that it's good.
Yeah.
Because we are your brothers and sisters. We are all, if you believe in that, that we really are, come from one source. We all started.
Yeah.
Then we are all sharing these journeys with each other, and we all want the same thing. So
Yeah.
we want to help.
And that's why I call this my initiation to love. Like, I came onto this planet just wanting to learn about love. You know, like, like my all-time favorite song that I just like belt out all the time to myself is like that Journey song, like I want to know what love is.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And I love the Krishna Das version, and this is teaching me, you know, what love is, and love is this. Love is, it's these conversations, you know, it's you making this homemade ghee with lots of love. So more soon. We can obviously talk forever. I really value your time, and I hope that Abby and the little one come next time, and we can all just be around the table and talking.
Yeah.
And,
Well,
Yeah.
thanks for having me.
thank you.
It's just good seeing you guys and being with you guys.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much for believing in me and for just giving me the framework, helping me see that vision. Because sometimes it's hard to keep creating it and holding it, and you know what I mean, like holding all the roles.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, good.
I understand.